What's up, everyone? We're going to be going through the best WNBA player props on PrizePicks today. Now, I did want to show you the results from yesterday's picks from my exclusive Discord group, and as you guys see, we actually got 22 picks correct, which is absolutely insane. Now, a lot of you comment wanting to see how many I got wrong, and I thought I'd show you in today's video. We only got 2 picks wrong and got 22 right, which is a 95% win rate. Yes, guys, you heard that right. 95% win rate. So we're on a huge hot streak, but if you want to get a 95% win rate and get 22 picks right like me, win more bets and receive the best picks from some of the best bettors in the world for less than a cup of coffee, you can access the exclusive Discord to meet some of the best sport bettors in the game by joining my Patreon. Should be linked down below in the description. Once you join, you'll have complete access to the Discord and can start winning more bets today. So make sure you join my Patreon using the link in the description. And here's one of our members who just signed up and won himself $237 just yesterday, and another member who won $200 for the 5th day in a row since joining my Discord. So guys, if you want to win big money like our members, the link will be in the description, so go join the Patreon to have access to the Discord group, and I will be continuing to upload every single day on this channel the best bets and props, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my daily uploads. So quick shout out to Matthew Q7 Ed, who said it's scary, and shouts out to the Rhyme King, who said notice this will never get answered. So it did get answered, so shouts out to them. And if you do want to win a shout out in the next video, all you have to do is comment down below in this video and like it, and you can be in the running to win a shout out in the next one. Alright, so let's get straight into the first pick. And when it comes to these picks, I'm not saying to chuck all of them into a parlay and hope for the best. Pick and choose the ones that you like and the ones that work best for you. So the first pick we're going to talk about is none other than Lexi Hull, and this one is for 4.5 rebounds, and this one actually is for less. Now looking at Lexi Hull, we actually have seen her go on the under in 1 out of the last 5 games. Now looking at those 5 games, we see on August 25th, faced off against Minnesota, actually had 1 rebound there. After that, faced off on August 27th against none other than actually Seattle Storm, and actually had 9 rebounds in that matchup. After that, on August 30th, faced off against Los Angeles Sparks, had 5 rebounds there. And then 6 rebounds against Golden State Valkyries on September 1. And then September 3, faced off against Phoenix and had 5 rebounds there. So we actually have seen, obviously Lexi Hull do well in some of these most recent games. And when we look at Lexi Hull and Indiana Fever, we do know that, first of all, her average over the last 5 is 5.2, which is slightly above this line. But we do also have to mention that there was definitely a massive outlier game against Seattle Storm, which has definitely brought this average a little bit too high. But Indiana Fever do face off against in this next matchup against none other than Chicago Sky. Now it is definitely going to be an exciting game between both of these teams for sure, but looking at where both these teams rank, obviously starting off with none other than Indiana Fever do actually rank 8th when it comes to the WNBA. However, we do also know that they do actually rank 3rd in the Eastern Conference. So it is pretty interesting to see. They obviously have a record of 21 wins and actually 20 losses. That's a 51.2% win percentage. And on top of that, what we also do know is that they have a record at home of 11-9, an away record of 10-11, and are currently on a 2-game losing streak. So it is pretty interesting to see. Obviously, looking at Indiana Fever, we definitely have seen her, do a fantastic job. But coming into this next matchup, we do also know that they face off against none other than actually Chicago Sky. So Chicago Sky, great team. Chicago Sky do, however, rank 11th in the WNBA, and on top of that, that puts them in actually the 5th spot in the WNBA. So pretty interesting there. Obviously, coming into this one, we also do know when it comes to Lexi Hull and Indiana in the Indiana and Chicago Sky matchup. Looking at Chicago Sky defensively when it comes to rebounds allowed, we actually do see that Chicago Sky do a fantastic job against rebounds, as they do rank 5th when it comes to rebounds allowed. So, I would say it's a little bit more of the higher, mid-tier in that sense, but one thing that really does push us over the edge on why we do like the under is due to the fact that when we look at Chicago Sky, what we do know is that Chicago Sky actually do a fantastic job at restricting rebounds to the guard position. So for that reason, we do very much like the under for this situation here. We definitely see someone like Lexi Hull going on the under, due to that. And like I mentioned before, obviously we did see Lexi Hull go and have an outlier game against Seattle Storm, and it has brought this line a little bit too high that now there's a lot more value actually to go on the under there. So for that reason, I definitely would keep an eye out for the under for this situation for someone like Lexi Hull, as we definitely do very much like the under for this one. So Lexi Hull, 4.5 rebounds for less, I think is a fantastic pick. Now getting into the next one, we're actually going to be talking about none other than actually Natasha Howard. So Natasha Howard, great player, as we all know, from none other than actually, Indiana Fever, but they do face off against Chicago Sky. Now, obviously, there are only a couple of games for today, so some of the games may have a bit of overlap there. But this one is Natasha Howard for 10.5 points, and this one actually is for less. Now, looking at Natasha Howard, we do actually see that they actually rank, that she actually has gone on the under in 4 out of the last 5 games. Now, this one's an interesting one here. Obviously, looking at someone like Natasha Howard, we have seen her go on the under quite consistently. August 25th, faced off against Minnesota Lynx, actually had, 10 points there. Then August 27th, faced off against Seattle Storm, had 6 points. August 30th, faced off against Los Angeles Sparks, had 5 points. September 1, Golden State Valkyries had 13 points, and September 3rd against Phoenix Mercury had 4 points there. So when we actually look at that, it is pretty interesting to see because we have seen her go on the under quite consistently. Obviously, coming into this next game, we do know Indiana face off against none other than Chicago Sky coming into this game. So it is definitely going to be an exciting matchup there. Now, looking at someone like Natasha Howard and also Indiana Fever versus Chicago Sky, we do know when it comes to, her last 5 games, we do know her average over the last 5 is 7.6, which is significantly below this line. Now, coming into this matchup, it's definitely going to be an exciting one, but we do know, just to reiterate again, we do know Indiana Fever do come in at the 8th spot in the WNBA, but also do come 3rd in the Eastern Conference. Now, they have a record of 21 wins and 20 losses. That's a 51.2% win percentage. They're also 11-9 at home, 10-11 from away, and are currently on a 2-game losing streak, as we mentioned. But I do also want to mention that over the last 10 games, they've actually had a record of 4-6, which is interesting to see there. Now, looking at, this other matchup, we also do know on the other side of it, they face off against Sky, who do rank 11th in the WNBA. However, on top of that, also do actually have the 5th spot in the WNBA. Now, they have a record of 10 wins and 30 losses. However, over the last 10 games, we actually do see that they have a record of 2-8, so pretty poorly there. Now, obviously, this is for the points department, and looking at the points department, we do actually see when it comes to, Natasha Howard, we do know facing off against Chicago Sky defensively, when it comes to points allowed, they do rank 10th. So they don't really rank too high. However, the reason why we still do very much like the actual, under for this situation here is that Chicago Sky actually do a fantastic job at restricting points to the forward position. So for that reason, we do very much think or believe the under for this situation here. On top of that, when you also look at Natasha Howard and see, her play style as of lately and her usage rate out there, it's definitely been a lot more on the lower side. We have seen her go in the under quite consistently. Her average over the last 5 is significantly under this line. And all those things being said, we do very much like the under for this one. So I definitely would keep an eye out for someone like Natasha Howard coming into this game, and I do definitely expect the under for this situation here. So definitely keep an eye out for someone like Natasha Howard coming into this matchup. We definitely see her going on the under here. So Natasha Howard, 10.5 points for less, I think is a fantastic pick. Now, getting into the next one, we're going to be talking actually about another matchup, and this is none other than Gabby Williams. So Gabby Williams, great player, as we all know, from none other than Seattle Storm, and this one is for 10.5 points, and this one is for less. Now, looking at Gabby Williams, we actually have seen her go on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. Looking at the 5 games, we see on August 25th, faced off against Washington Mystics, had 10 points there. August 27th, faced off against Indiana, had 2 points. August 29th, faced off against Minnesota, had 16 points. And 12 points against Chicago Sky on August 31st, and then 8 points against Los Angeles Sparks on September 2. So you have definitely seen her go in the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. Now, looking at these games, we do also know when it comes to Seattle Storm, they have themselves a very good matchup against none other than actually New York Liberty. So it is definitely going to be an exciting game there. Now, coming into this matchup, we do also know when it comes to Seattle Storm and New York Liberty and looking at where they do rank. Starting off, obviously, with Seattle Storm, we do actually know Seattle Storm do come in at the actual 5th spot in the WNBA. So they do rank, or they have fallen quite a little bit. But what we also do see is that when it actually comes to, Gabby Williams, we do know Seattle Storm do also face or are in the different conference, and they rank 7th in the WNBA. Now, starting first with Liberty and talking a little bit more about them, Liberty do rank 5th as we mentioned, but they also rank 2nd in the Eastern Conference. Now, when we also look further, we also do know when it comes to Liberty, we do know that they actually have a record of 24 wins and 17 losses. So pretty interesting there. Obviously, they have a 58.5% win percentage, 16-5 from home, 8-12 from away, and are currently on a 2-game losing streak. So very interesting to see there. Now, obviously, Liberty do face off against Seattle Storm, and looking at Seattle Storm, we do know that they come in at the 7th spot, as we've mentioned. They rank 5th in the Western Conference, and on top of that, we also know that they are 22 wins, 20 losses, 52.4% win percentage. They're also 9-11 from home, 13-9 from away, and are currently on a 1-game losing streak. So very, very interesting to see there. Now, obviously, coming into this matchup, it's definitely going to be an exciting one. But what we also do know coming into this matchup is that when we look at someone like Gabby Williams, we do see that she faces off against a Liberty team where New York Liberty do actually rank 6th when it comes to points allowed. Now, a big reason why they do rank very low, even though Liberty are a great, team in general when it comes to their ranking, a big reason for that is due to the fact that Liberty do like to really push the pace as much as possible. And it's definitely had a huge effect on Gabby Williams, because of that. We definitely are expecting, coming into this game. However, although Liberty do like to push the pace and it does allow a lot of points, what we do see is that when it comes to Liberty, they actually do a fantastic job at restricting points to the forward position. So when we look on a per position basis, we definitely see a different story. Now, looking at someone like Gabby Williams as well, we definitely have seen her usage rate in the points department be a little bit on the lower side, and that's what we are expecting coming into this game as well. So for that reason, we do very, very much like the under for this one. When you look at what the bookies are saying, bookies also are favored for the under as well. So Gabby Williams, 10.5 points for less, I think is a fantastic pick. So as you all know, I do want to get these picks out to you as soon as possible, but PrizePicks is delayed with some of their lines. So here are a couple of players you should definitely watch out for when their lines drop. So the first player you're going to be talking about is none other than Natasha Howard. So Natasha Howard, great player for none other than Indiana Fever. And we have seen her do a fantastic job so far this season because we've actually seen her average 11.1 points, 6.6 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 1.1 steals. So she's definitely done a fantastic job there for Indiana Fever, and Indiana Fever do find themselves in a matchup against none other than Chicago Sky. Now, it is going to be an exciting game between both of these teams, but looking at where both of these teams do actually lie, obviously starting off with Indiana Fever, we know Fever come in at the 8th spot in the WNBA. Now, unfortunately, they have definitely dropped just slightly, but they are looking to continue to try to stay in that playoff position. Now, they do have a record of 21 wins and 20 losses. That's a 51.2% win percentage. And on top of that, what we also do see is that when it actually comes to Indiana Fever, they come in at the 3rd spot in the Eastern Conference. So very, very interesting to see. Obviously, coming into this matchup, we see they have a 51.2% win percentage. On top of that, they also are 11-9 from home, 10-11 from away, and are currently on a 2-game losing streak. So very, very interesting there. Obviously, coming into this game, it's going to be an exciting one as they face off against Chicago Sky. Now, Chicago Sky are ranked a little bit worse, unfortunately. Chicago do find themselves in a position where they are actually 11th in the WNBA, and they also rank 5th in the Eastern Conference. So they are in the same conference as none other than actually, Indiana Fever. But on top of that, what we also do see is that, Chicago Sky do have a record of 10 wins, 30 losses. That's a 25% win percentage, which is, interesting to see there. They are also 6-15 from home, 4-15 from away, and are currently on a 1-game win streak. streak. So very interesting enough there. Now coming into this matchup, it's definitely going to be an exciting one, but looking at where Chicago Sky do rank defensively, we do know Chicago Sky ranked 10th when it comes to points allowed, 10th when it comes to assists allowed, and then rebounds allowed, they do rank 4th. So, pretty interesting to see there. Obviously, looking at this matchup, we do know Chicago Sky ranked pretty poorly in points and assists. A little bit better in rebounds, that definitely still very, very poor. Now, looking at this matchup, we do actually like the over for someone like Natasha Howard, but specifically more for points and assists. And that being the reason that obviously, Chicago Sky do rank a little bit worse in that. And on top of that, we also do know when it actually comes to Chicago Sky, we definitely have seen them really, really do very poorly as of lately, like over the last 5 to 10 games, in the points and assist department. So, when you actually look at their kind of rate at where they allow points and assists, it's definitely actually fallen. However, as I've mentioned, when it comes to the rankings, that is throughout the regular, whole season. So, when you look at them more on a recent basis, their form hasn't really been the best. It's definitely been a bit of a struggle for them. So that's why we do very, very much like the over for someone like Natasha. Now, looking at Natasha, we do know over her last 5 games recently, we saw on the 25th, faced off against Minnesota, had a 97-84 loss with 10 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists there. Then on the 27th, faced off against Seattle, had a 95-75 win with 6 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists there. Then on the 30th, faced off against LA Sparks and had a 76-75 win with 5 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists there. On the 1st, faced off against Golden State Valkyries, had a 75-63 loss with 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 0 assists there. Getting into the next one, we actually look on the 3rd, actually faced off against Phoenix. We saw them actually lose 85-79 and had 4 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. Now, when it actually comes to Natasha Howard, we definitely have seen it, be pretty interesting for her in some matchups. Obviously, matchups where she has first off against easier teams, she's definitely been able to take advantage of that for sure. So we should see her be able to do that once again in this one. Now, looking at the next player, we're going to be talking about Jordan Canada. So Jordan Canada, great player from none other than Atlanta Dream. She's done a fantastic job so far this season, actually averaging 12 points, 3.4 rebounds, 5.6 assists, and 1.8 steals. So she's definitely done a fantastic job there. When we look at someone like Jordan Canada, we also do know Atlanta Dream face off against none other than Los Angeles Sparks. So it is pretty interesting to see. Obviously, looking at LA Sparks, we do know that, LA Sparks and Atlanta Dream both are pretty interesting when it comes to the discrepancy between both of these teams ranking wise. Obviously, starting off with Atlanta Dream now find themselves at the number 2 spot in the WNBA. They have definitely climbed up drastically lately, I would say over the last 10 to 15 days. And now they find themselves not only in the number 2 spot in the WNBA, but the number 1 spot in the Eastern Conference. So it's definitely been pretty big for them. Now, looking at their matchup as well, Los Angeles Sparks, before we get into them, I do want to also let you know Atlanta Dream have a record of 27 wins, 14 losses. That's a 65.9% win percentage. They're also 14-6 from home, 13-8 from away, and are currently on a 3-game win streak. Now, they face off against the Sparks, where Sparks do actually rank 9th in the WNBA. Not only do they rank 9th, but we also do know that they are ranking very, very low. They rank 6th in the Western Conference. So they are in a different conference, but they do have a record of 19 wins, 21 losses, 47.5% win percentage. And on top of that, they are 8-12 from home, 11-9 from away, and are currently on a 1-game losing streak. So Sparks are definitely still trying to string along some wins to see, how high they can get up. Obviously, it is still a very close race between, multiple teams in the WNBA. But looking at LA Sparks defensively and looking at where Jordan Canada, where we should see her lie, we do know Sparks do rank 12th when it comes to points allowed, 12th when it comes to assists allowed, and then rebounds allowed, they do rank 7th. And that's why coming into this matchup, we do very, very much like the over for this situation for someone like Jordan Canada. When we look at Jordan Canada, we also do know that when it comes to Los Angeles Sparks, they actually do a very, very poor job at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to her position. So we definitely see someone like Jordan being able to take advantage of that. Now, looking at her last 5 games, we see on the 4th, faced off against Washington, had a 99-83 win with 16 points, 2 rebounds, 9 assists there. Then on the 8th, faced off against Chicago, had an 86-65 win with 17 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists there. On the 11th, faced off against Phoenix Mercury, had a 74-66 win with 13 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist there. After that, on the 2nd, faced off against Connecticut, had a 93-76 win with 15 points, 0 rebounds, 1 assist there. On the 4th, faced off against LA Sparks, actually had an 86-75 win with 10 points, 3 rebounds, and 10 assists there. So, very interesting to see. Obviously, looking at Jordan Canada, we definitely have seen her, do a very good job at times, especially against easier matchups. Now, obviously, looking at their matchup, we do know when it comes to actually, Jordan Canada, we do know that they have faced off against LA Sparks recently, and in that matchup we actually saw LA Sparks in that matchup see Jordan Canada go on the over on her assist line and slightly missed out on her points and rebounds line. So it was pretty interesting there, but coming into this next one, we should see a little bit of a different story. We are expecting coming into this matchup, we should actually see Jordan Canada be able to go on the over, make some adjustments, and do very well. So for that reason, we do very much like the actual over for this situation for someone like Jordan Canada. We are expecting her to make those adjustments and be able to go on the over there. Now, getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about Britney Sykes. So, Britney Sykes, as we all know, great player from none other than Seattle Storm. And she's done a fantastic job so far this season, averaging 14.2 points, 3.2 rebounds, 4.1 assists, and 1.2 steals. So she's done a fantastic job there. Now, when we look at Britney Sykes, we do know that they actually have themselves a very good matchup against none other than actually New York Liberty. So it is pretty interesting to see. Obviously, looking at New York Liberty and also Seattle Storm, it is going to be an exciting matchup between both of these teams. Now, looking at where both these teams do lie, starting off with New York Liberty, we do know that they actually come in at the 5th spot in the WNBA. Not only do they come in at the 5th spot in the WNBA, but on top of that, we also do know that they actually rank 2nd in the Eastern Conference. They have a record of 24 wins, 17 losses. That's a 58.5% win percentage. They're also 16-5 from home, 8-12 from away, and are currently on a 2-game losing streak. Now, they face off against none other than actually, Seattle Storm, as we know. Seattle Storm ranks 7th in the WNBA, actually have a record of 22 wins, 20 losses, 52.4% win percentage, are also 9-11 from home, 13-9 from away, and are currently on a 1-game losing streak. So it is pretty interesting to see. Obviously, looking at Seattle Storm, we definitely have seen them, do a pretty decent job as well. Both of these teams are somewhat similarly ranked. Obviously, Liberty are just 2 slots higher, but still somewhat in that same range. But looking at, New York Liberty defensively, although they are a pretty high-ranking team, they do actually rank surprisingly 6th when it comes to points allowed, 6th when it comes to assists allowed, and then rebounds allowed. They do rank 12th. So they actually rank pretty mid-tier in all 3 categories. And a big reason why that is the case is due to the fact that when you actually look at Britney Sykes, and the matchup against New York Liberty, we do know New York Liberty, they love to absolutely run the pace. They are a very fast-paced team, and because of that, it does lead to their play style where they allow a lot of points, rebounds, and assists. And coming into this game, we are expecting someone like Britney Sykes to see an increase in her actual volume due to the fact that New York Liberty are probably going to speed up Seattle Storm's pace. More pace means more volume and more opportunity for Britney Sykes to score, rebound, or even play make. Now, looking at this matchup as well, what we also do know is that looking at her last 5 games, we see on the 25th faced off against Washington Mystics, had an 84-82 win with 10 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist there. Then against Indiana on the 27th, actually had a 95-75 loss with 12 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists in that matchup. And then on the 29th, faced off against Minnesota, had a 93-79 win with 8 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists there. Then on the 31st, faced off against Chicago, had a 79-69 win with 11 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists there. Then on the 2nd, faced off against LA Sparks, had a 91-85 loss with 7 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists assist in that matchup. So pretty interesting to see. Obviously, looking at the last 5, we have definitely seen Britney Sykes do well in some games, other games do pretty poorly. But with a matchup like Liberty, where they are very fast-paced, they allow a lot of points, rebounds, and assists, this one is just kind of a no-brainer to us on why we do actually, like the actual over for this situation. So I definitely would keep an eye out, because when we actually look at, someone like Britney Sykes, we definitely are expecting her to go on the over in this one. Now, getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about Ariel Atkins. So, Ariel Atkins, as we all know, great player from none other than actually Chicago Sky. She has done a great job, averaging 13.2 points, 3.4 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and also 1.6 steals. So, we definitely have seen her do a fantastic job there. Now, when we look at Ariel Atkins and Chicago Sky, we do know that they face off against Indiana Fever. Now, don't really need to talk about the ranking too much, as we have already mentioned it, but just to quickly reiterate, obviously Chicago Sky do come in at the 11th spot in the WNBA. They also rank actually 5th in the Eastern Conference, which is interesting to see there. But on top of anything else, what we also do know is that they have a record of 10 wins, 30 losses. But over the last 10 games, they've actually had a record of 2-8. So a bit of a struggle for them there. Now, looking at someone like Ariel Atkins, we do know that they actually face off against none other, as we've mentioned, against, Indiana Fever. Now, Indiana Fever are in a bit of a different situation, because Indiana Fever do actually rank 8th in the WNBA, 21-20 record. But over the last 10 games, they've actually had a record of actually a 4-6. So pretty interesting to see there. Now, coming into this next one, we do know when it comes to actually, Ariel Atkins and Indiana Fever. Looking at Fever defensively, we do know that they actually rank, pretty low in points allowed, rank 9th. And in assists allowed, they actually rank 4th. And then rebounds allowed, they rank 3rd. Now, for that reason, we do very, very much actually like the, under for this situation for Ariel Atkins, but in the rebounding and also in the rebounding and assist category. So for that reason, we do very, very much like the under for this one. We definitely see someone like Ariel Atkins going on the under, due to the fact that when we look at someone like Ariel Atkins, we also do know when it comes to actually her rebounding and assist line, it isn't as high as we'd like it. So obviously there are other players in the Chicago Sky team that do give a little bit more rebounds and assists, and we see them doing a lot more of the heavy lifting for this matchup. So for that reason, we do very, very much like the actual under for someone like her. We definitely see her going on the under due to that situation coming into this game. So when you look at the last 5 games, we do see on the 24th, faced off against Connecticut Sun, had a 94-84 loss, 12 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists there. On the 26th, faced off against the Las Vegas Aces, had a 79-74 loss with 30 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists there. On the 29th, faced off against Phoenix, had an 83-79 loss with 9 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists there. On the 31st, faced off against Seattle, had a 76-69 loss with 7 points, 2 rebounds, 8 assists in that matchup. And then on the 4th, faced off against Connecticut Sun, had an 88-64 win with 6 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists there. So definitely do very, very much like the actual under coming into this section. And we do very, very much think the rebounds and assists is where you want to focus on for someone like her.